Boom. All right. We are live a minute early. And so if you are here early, then drop a comment in the chat. Let me know if you can hear it and see me. I'm going to make sure that the chat is open to everyone, because in the past, we've had that not be the case. And I'm going to test it. And it looks like we are good and we are cooking. And so if you're just chiming in, just let me know if you can hear and see me. And if you're in the Facebook group watching us, you can jump into the Zoom. There's a link there. There's a link in your inbox, most likely. And if there isn't, there's a link in the anticipation post for this live in Facebook. In the comments, you'll see it there. Click, jump in, get in the room with us. You'll be able to engage in the chat. And then we can kind of direct the dialogue using the chat. This is our first time testing these live trainings at 1 p.m. Typically, we do these at 6 p.m. EST here on Zoom in the Facebook group, but we're trying 1 p.m. So for those that are here, I see a handful of you. Just let me know if you can hear and see me, whether you're watching here in the Zoom live or in the Facebook group, just so I know before I get into my screen share. I see no messages. Maybe nobody can hear me. Or maybe nobody feels like commenting. Maybe it's that. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go. There we go. Ah, now we got him coming in hot. All right. Good. Good. I know I'm heard and seen. All right, we're going to hit it. So as some folks trickle in, we're going to go jump into a deck. So we're coming in on the heels of our in-person event. Our first in-person event in 3 years was just this past weekend. We had 30 plus investors fly in from all over the country for 2 days of education, networking, excuse me, in the field. Right? Tactical field visits on projects. We're going to be dropping a lot of the videos and photos from the event into the Fix and Flip Foundation group. So if you're active in that group, stay engaged there. You'll see a lot of that start to kind of flow through. And then today, I'm actually going to extract one of the 4 talks that I did on the first day at the event. And we're going to go deep on it here. It's all things ops. Again, the theme of our talk is systems will keep you sane. And I'm going to show you how and why I believe that to be true. So I'll jump into a quick screen share and we'll just hit it. And so here is our deck for our talk today. Let me know if you can see this. I'm going to open the chat as well. I want to make sure. In the past, I've gone through an entire presentation thinking the deck was visible, only to find out that it was not visible the entire time. Visible. Thank you, sir. All right. Now we're cooking. Right. This is, I'm going to leave the chat up as well. So stay engaged, drop comments in the chat as we go. And I'll do my best to answer, and whatever questions we don't get to by the end, we'll do a Q&A. So just use the webinar chat for all your questions. No sense putting them in the Q&A. Like I said, I'm alone and I'll only be able to manage one window at a time. So drop your questions in the Q&A, not in the Q&A, in the chat. So quickly, what all is the system that will keep you sane? Well, it's the entrepreneur's operating system. It goes by a lot of different names. Entrepreneur Operating System, EOS, is the one we subscribe to. It's the one based on Traction, right? The book I often rave about. If you were at the event, you know I was holding the book up and was talking about how I subscribe to that model. There's Empire, there's Elite, there's dozens, I'm sure, but what system you should use is the one you will use, right? That's the most important thing, is just subscribe to one, use one. So we advocate for EOS. And what all is it? Well, it's 5 components. It's vision, people, data, issues, process. Those are the 5 core elements of any system, specifically of this system, to operate from in your business. And we're going to talk how we implement that in our fix and flip business and how we suggest that you might do the same in yours. And so I'm going to read this. Typically, I don't read from these slides, but this definition is so solid that I want to read it, right? And so it's going to bring things together, those 5 core elements. It's a clear vision shared by everyone with the right people in the right seats, keeping a pulse on the operations by watching and managing a handful of numbers weekly. That's the data piece. To identify and solve issues promptly, and to document processes to ensure they are followed by everyone. And there you have it, vision, people, data, issues, process, the 5 core elements. This is the definition. And we're going to jump right into each of the 5, and I'm going to unpack them and then illustrate them in our business. We're going to use our business as an example to give you some insight on how you might implement this in your business, kind of regardless of where you are in your journey. So what are the core vision questions? Like, as you're crafting your vision, you want to be clear on what your core values are. What's your focus, right? And core values and focus and mission statement, right? These things sound hokey, but it's like, how do you know where you're going? Well, you're clearly not going to get there if you don't know where the destination is. So it's important that you ask and answer these questions in your business. What's your marketing strategy? How are you going to generate leads? Quarterly rocks, we'll talk about what those are. And then what are your issues? Frankly, you should be asking this question. Issues are opportunities. And if your business doesn't have issues, then your business isn't growing. So I want to just suggest a reframe on issues, right? They're actually opportunities in disguise. And so here's what a vision might look like, inclusive of values, focus, marketing strategy, issues, right? The rocks, those 5 elements we were just talking about on the previous slide. Here's a 1-pager of what that looks like in our business. We have core values. What are they? Speed, team, quality, versatility, service. Those are the 5 core values that everyone in our organization embodies. So what are yours, right? They shouldn't be the same as ours. They could be, some could overlap, but you should have your own core values. What's your focus? We focus on properties with a purpose. That means that we're not just looking for a deal, right? When people say, I'm just looking for a deal, well, like, what's a deal? When you're looking for who's your customer, everybody's my customer. Well, if everybody's your customer, nobody's your customer. If you're looking for any deal, then you're looking for no deal. You got to be specific, right? What properties are you sourcing? What types of deals? Our marketing strategy, what are our unique differentiators? Lead with value, systems that scale, and people over profits. And again, these things sound hokey, but in application, these are real, right? We really embody these things. If we can't bring you value, then we won't look to do business with you. We have to be able to lead and bring you value first. Everything we do is systematic because we believe systems will keep you sane and systems will scale. And we want to serve you in your situation. If you look at the guarantee down at the bottom there, that's what people over profits means, is we're trying to figure out, where is the seller at? What is prompting this, this distressed sale? How can we serve this seller, right? Like, it's not about the house, it's about the relationship with the seller. And then from there, ultimately we'll buy the house. Issues, again, if your business doesn't have issues, if you don't have an ever working list of issues, if you're not creating new issues, then you're not growing. So you should be working on issues and always and ever creating or identifying new issues to address to keep the business growing. New level, new devil, right? Like, if the business isn't growing, it's dying. And then rocks, that was the 5th component on the previous slide. And these are things that you would assign to individuals in your organization for them to work on over the course of a quarter. So they're called quarterly rocks. So these aren't goals that they could just achieve over the course of a day or a week. These are things that will take 3 months to do, like onboarding a new team member or launching a new marketing campaign, right? These are the kinds of things that you want to work on that need more than a day, a week, or a month. So transitioning into people, right people in the right seats. Both elements are important, and I'm going to show you why, right? It's possible that you have the right people and they're in the wrong seat. It's possible that your organization is not structured correctly and you have the wrong seats, never mind the right people. So here's what the right seats look like. If you've been on one of our leverage calls, right, the trainings we've done on leverage, you've seen me present this in the past. We're talking about our 3 core functions in our business. it's at the top. Ideally, you're these two things in your business right now. You're the visionary and the integrator, but then you're looking, and you may be all five of these in your business right now. But eventually the idea is that you will delegate and elevate. You will fire yourself as office manager. You will fire yourself as project manager, and you'll bring folks in, the right people to fill those seats. So the right seats are these three seats here. It's your project manager, it's your office manager, and it's your marketing manager. And those are the three core functions that you'll need to scale a fix and flip organization. Ultimately, pulling yourself out, firing yourself is each of those, and delegate and elevate up. And so here's what the right people look like. So we've talked about the right seats. Now think about putting the right people in those seats, okay? Here's a version of a tool that we use to analyze the people in our organization to ensure that everybody we have is an A player, right? So I'm going to go deep here with you. So think, all right, I've identified what the right seats are. Now let me make sure I got the right people in my organization in those seats. A players specifically. Let's talk about what an A player looks like. So the bar for an A player of your 5 core values, that's our 5, you see them here: speed, team, quality, versatility, service. They need to be checking all of those boxes, at least 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses, but no minuses, right? Anywhere you're seeing a minus on a core value, that was a miss. That was a hire that had no business being hired in the first place, right? If there wasn't a core value alignment, they shouldn't have been in our organization because they're not the right people. Never mind the right seats. So here's what an A player looks like, right? Across the board: speed, team, quality, versatility, service, pluses across the board. And then they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. Those are the other 3 elements. So first, we're looking for A players that are in alignment from a value standpoint. And then we go and look, okay, do they get it? Do they cognitively understand what the role is? Do they want it? Do they have a desire? Because we can't want it for them. They have to have a desire to do that job. And then capacity, like, can they be coached, right? Like maybe they come in and they've got experience, so they already have the capacity to do what it is that we're looking for them to do, say project management, for example. Or maybe they come in and they need some coaching, but if they have the capacity, we can coach them up. So if you look, you'll see some A players, right? We've been fortunate to have a lot of A players in our organization, but you'll also see some minuses where we had some B and C players that found their way in. But again, hire slow, fire fast. Get the right people in your organization. If by virtue of, say your onboarding process fails you. In the past, we didn't have an onboarding process, and that's why some of these B and C players made it through. But if you're looking at some B and C players in your organization right now, consider like dumping the dead weight, and A players roll with A players. Find some more A players, because B's and C's can pull A's down. A's can never pull B's and C's up. That's just an absolute fact, right? A players want to roll with A players. They can work alongside one another, but an A player will never pull a C player up, but a C player can pull an A player down. So that's what I'll say about the people tools. One other thing, like we're using project manager as the example. What you're looking at here on the right is a predictive index, a test for me specifically as a project manager, as a construction project manager. You might have thought after years of successfully managing projects that I would be in the green. I would be in the 90th percentile as a project manager. Well, the reality is that although I could do it, and I did do it successfully, I didn't, it's not my core competency. So if you were to look at this predictive index, this test for me as a integrator, as a COO, then you would see 97 percentile. Right? Like I would be green off the charts because I am a born and bred integrator. I am not a project manager. Can I do the job? Sure. And there's plenty of people that can do the job. But what this likely means, if they're scoring in the 50s, is that they're going to have some sort of a shelf life. They'll do the job, but only for so long, because that's actually not what they're wired to do. And so for me, that was very much the case. I was a project manager and successfully brought things in on time and on budget, but it wasn't my core competency. And as soon as I could afford to bring on a project manager and delegate those responsibilities, I did. As quickly as I could, I did, because I wasn't wired for it. And so what I'd like you to take away from this slide in particular is that the right people in your organization can be moved into the right seats. The wrong people need to be removed. And so you may think you've got somebody in the right seat. They might be the right person. They might be an A player, but they could very much be in the wrong seat. And either it's your responsibility as the leader to find the right seat for them, or over time, they're going to find a way out of your organization. They're going to go find the right seat somewhere else. So just be mindful of that. A lot of times, either the challenges that leaders face because they don't realize, like, there's factors to it, right? Like the right people have to get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. They often look for someone who's a value alignment, someone they want to hang out with. I want to hire someone that I can go for a beer with. Like, no, that's a terrible reason to hire someone. Hire someone because they're the right fit for the job that you need them to fill. So again, hopefully it's helpful to see my predictive index, my test for project manager. Like I said, I've brought dozens of projects in on time and on budget, but the reality is it's not my core competency. I can do it, but I won't do it in a flow state. So again, I hope that's helpful. And we'll jump into the data piece. So data is essentially the tying of a number to each of the right people, right? So you've got the right seats in your organization, it's structured correctly. You've got the right people in those seats, but now how do you know that the right people are doing the right things? Data doesn't lie, right? So think again about the three core functions: office manager, project manager, and marketing manager. Finance, that's office, right? What are the right numbers? Well, for us, it's critically important, and for you and your fix and flip business, that you maintain account balances, that your projects are funded, that you have dollars ready to deploy. So for sure, the heartbeat of our business is the cash on hand to do these rehabs. Excuse me. So be conscious of that and make sure that your office manager, your executive assistant, whatever title you want to assign to that function in your business, is tracking your account balances regularly. Make sure your parent company is funded and that there's monies there to pay overhead, to pay insurances, to pay payroll, and then make sure each individual project has the monies it needs to get to the next draw. Operationally, your project manager needs to be managing project percent completedness. Where are we? Every Monday in your weekly huddle, your project manager should be reporting where he or she is at on your projects, right? We're slated to be 50% complete in month one, but we're only 40% per the scorecard. Okay, what's going on? We need to be asking those kinds of questions. Likely that's an issue, and we need to IDS, which we'll talk about a little bit, later on. And then marketing, outbound efforts. We want to be tracking leading versus lagging indicators. We want to know early on if our marketing efforts are hitting, right? We don't want to spend 6 months on a marketing effort that's not generating us any lead flow, that's falling flat. And the only way to do that is to track that. And I'll show you how we track it in our scorecard. Again, just a little bit deeper on each individual function and what it looks like for them to track their metric, their number. Finance, office manager, executive assistant, whatever title you want to give that role in your business. Are they managing your account balances? Are they managing draws? Are they managing the vendor payments? Making sure that the money's out don't exceed the money's in, right? Very simple math, right? Money in greater than money out. If not, you have a problem. Operations, this is where your project manager is tracking project percent completedness. We talked about that. What phase of the project are you in? How far along are you on the individual project? Tradesmen, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, where are you at? Have you completed masonry, framing, roof and siding? Like, is that done? Is that all 100%? Are you in MEP? Are you in plumbing, electric, HVAC? Have you completed that? Are you in insulation, drywall, floors? Have you moved on? Are you fully done with all of those? Are you in the trim tile paint phase? Are you really 75% complete on the project? Or are there lingering things that those trades owe you, right? You could be in trim tile paint, but not actually be done with a lot of the other stuff. Frankly, you wouldn't be done. You could be in trim tile paint and not be done with plumbing, electric, and HVAC because your plumber and electrician still need to come and install fixtures, right? So they wouldn't be 100% complete. They would be 80%, say. And so this is what we're managing to. This is what we're holding our project managers accountable to. And here's what we're talking about with leading and lagging indicators for marketing. Are you making contact are your marketing efforts hitting? Are you actually getting to the people that you want to get to? And if you are you generating inbound calls, right? Does your mail hit successfully? And are you generating calls from motivated sellers? So we want to know, are we making contact? Are we getting leads? And then ultimately, are we generating contracts? At the end of the day, that's where the rubber meets the road. And so these are the things that you're going to want to track on a scorecard. And again, here's what it looks like on a scorecard. Here's what our core functions, all the way up: visionary, integrator, finance, ops, and marketing, those 5 core functions, 2 of which are likely you in your business, or maybe all of them are you in your business right now. And then here's what your scorecard looks like. If you're wearing all those hats in your business, this is your scorecard, right? You're holding yourself accountable to everything on this scorecard. And we couldn't possibly go through this scorecard at length here. This is something we do all the time on our accelerator calls. And so if you're interested in going deeper on what you're looking at here, happy to do that with you offline. Just drop a comment in the chat, scorecard, just say scorecard in the chat, and Evan on the team will reach out to you and connect you, and we'll connect with you so we can actually do this offline, because frankly, these are 35-ish minute calls, and this alone is probably 30 minutes. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but encouraging you, if you want to go deeper on the scorecard, to just drop a comment in the chat and we'll connect with you offline. Again, the weekly huddle, I alluded to it earlier. That's where the project manager, office manager, marketing manager, you as the visionary, that's where you bring your numbers. That's where you bring your updates. Each week, ours is at 10 a.m. on Monday mornings. You report in on your scorecard. Where are you on project percent completedness? Where are we account balance wise? How much money do we have? How many inbound leads did we generate last week? Have you made any contacts with lenders, right? Because that's another measurable metric that you want to be tracking. Are you making outbound lender contacts? So like I said, not enough time on this call to go deep on this, but happy to do it offline with anyone who's interested. And now issues, like I said, issues are opportunities. People see the word issues and they think their business is broken, when the reality is, if you have a process to identify, discuss, and solve, IDS, your issues, your business is absolutely not broken. In fact, your business is growing and doing what it ought to be doing. So what I'll say about IDSing is that a majority of the time is going to be spent on the I, on the identify, right? Because step 1, identify, can take a lot longer than step 2 and 3, discuss and solve, because what you think the problem is very rarely the actual problem, right? The problem appears to be one thing, but the reality is that it's something completely different. And not until you identify the real problem can you discuss and solve it. And so the example that I gave in person at our event this past weekend was door orders, right? Exterior door and window orders were a mess for us many years ago. And what we thought was that we weren't clear on what it was that we were ordering. There were mistakes being made with our inside sales reps. But the reality was that we had a communication breakdown. The reason that the wrong doors and windows were being ordered and sent to the wrong houses was because our communication was fractured. And so what we realized is, hey, the problem's not exterior door and window orders, it's our communication. It's our internal chat. Our internal chat was messy. So we created individual silos in a tool called Slack, right? And you don't have to use Slack. You can use Monday or Asana, or there's a handful of other tools out there. What you should not use is text message. That's clearly like a mistake waiting to happen, right? Text messages get messy real fast. And so think about creating these individual silos for each of the projects where conversations about the projects happen independently of one another. And so when you're talking about ordering exterior doors and windows for 123 Main Street, you're doing that in the 123 Main Street channel, in that one Slack channel, in that silo. And then when it's time to talk about doors and windows for 234 Main Street, that's happening over here, right? Preventing that those mistakes, that those issues where you get the wrong items sent to the wrong houses. And so I hope that that illustration helps you visualize how you might use this in your business. Again, once you've identified what the real issue is, then you work together to discuss and solve it. Discussing it looks like a lot of talking and listening and airing out, of the issue. And then solving it is one of 3 things. It's either Like you put a plan in place to fix it. So there's a to-do and somebody's going to go and build out a process for how you're going to fix this thing. It could just be awareness. It could just be that now we all know and we all admit and agree that we all know, or maybe it means going and getting more data. Maybe it's a problem you've never actually faced in your organization before. Chances are it is. And now you can go and say, all right, our solve, our solution, our resolution for this is to go and have a conversation with someone who has a similar business in another market, and let's get their process, right? And then let's implement their process in our business starting next week, right? So think about your resolution can look three ways, could be three different ways. And here we go with process, bringing it all full circle. Processes are about document, is about identify, discuss, and solve. Ultimately, we want to identify the core process, document the process, and then package it and put it into an executable format, right? So we've done the IDS exercise, right? We've identified, discussed, and we've come up with a resolution. That resolution, that to-do is a new process. It's a new system, essentially. Okay, well, how are we going to do it? We're going to identify what the core process is. We're going to write it all down. We're going to start to document it. And eventually we're going to package it so that way everyone in the organization can refer to it and be held accountable to it. And here's what that looks like in a very simple, and straightforward way to illustrate what this looks like. It's essentially, it's a long list that then becomes a working list. Say someone in the field identifies an issue with something, they start capturing all their notes. Eventually they transition those notes over to something that we can all look at and discuss and play with in an office setting, ideally, eventually turning it into a final product, a template, a worksheet, something that you can then formalize and put into a binder, right? And work from. This is the process life cycle, right? This isn't anything earth shattering. It's very much straightforward. It's the execution of it. It's the cadence. It's the accountability and the consistency that's often lacking. A lot of people know what they need to do to resolve the issues in their business. They just don't put the process. They don't execute on the process to resolve the issue. They'd rather bury their head in the sand and let the issue persist. And so here's a process life cycle, and here's a process fully evolved, right? And you've seen a couple of these already. If you've been on these lives, you've seen this one in particular many times. How do we track our trades? How do we make sure that we're progressing along the phases and executing the way we ought to be to get these projects done on time and on budget? Well, our trade tracker is our process for that. This was a system that evolved over time. Another one, a more dense one, is our actual milestone template. It's the 50 processes, the 50 steps in the process that we execute on to take these at-a-level projects from start to finish. And as a bonus, anywhere that you see an item in red, that's an opportunity for you to document and disseminate, right? That's not what this talk is about. You've heard me talk about anything worth doing is worth documenting. And then ultimately disseminating, showing people what you're actually doing in the field. This is your opportunity to do that. If you look, there's something like 12 or 15 line items on your rehab milestone that you can take advantage of to create content around and publish and post, right? Ultimately generating you inbound deals and dollars. So if you've been on our marketing calls in the past, you've heard me talk about that. And that's it, guys. And then encouraging you to think on what issues in your business could you implement a process to solve. Again, think issues, process. Systems will keep you sane if you execute on them. And I'll jump back to the vision definition. I want you to be able to kind of be looking at that as we field any questions that we might have. Again, clear vision shared by everyone with the right people in the right seats, keeping a pulse on the operations by watching and managing to a handful of numbers, data, to identify and solve issues promptly, and to document processes to ensure that they're followed by everyone. And we just close with processes. So you saw what it looks like to create a formal documented process that can go into a binder, that can that you can hold everyone accountable to, that you can make sure that everyone works from and references. So I'll just pause there. And if we've got any questions around any of these topics, I'm happy to answer them. And Evan, if you're live and you're seeing questions in the chat over on Facebook that aren't making their way here, drop them in the chat here, because this is the chat I'll work from. Otherwise, happy to just open it up to any questions anyone else has. And then like, where in your organization do you have existing issues that you could put processes in place to solve? Just be mindful of that. Be thinking of that as you're kind of stewing on some questions you might want to ask. John, great question. Yeah. What if you're the person in every seat? Well, the unfortunate reality at the beginning is that you are. Like, you don't just start a business with 5 staff members, right? You're not going to be a team of 5 right out of the gate. It's going to be you wearing all 5 of those hats. And so I still think it makes a lot of sense to hold yourself accountable. Do daily stand-ups with yourself. Do weekly huddles with yourself, right? Like, and another way to also do it with yourself. Hold yourself accountable. If you can't do that, if you're the type of person that like won't have that level of accountability, find someone who's in a similar place in their business and hold daily stand-ups where you are wearing all the hats and they're wearing all the hats in their respective businesses. And you guys do the daily stand-ups together. You do the weekly huddles together, right? If you go through that exercise, when the time comes for you to onboard your first office manager or project manager, you're already committed to this process. These daily stand-ups will be something that you're already doing. You've already got a regular cadence and you're executing on them. And then the weekly huddles, same thing. Like, you're already accustomed to showing up every Monday, whether it's just you and a whiteboard, or whether it's you and, someone who has a comparable business in a different market, and you guys are holding each other accountable and doing your huddles like on the phone together or on a Zoom together. When the time comes to onboard a team, you just plug them right into the process. These habits are harder to form in existing organizations when people have been doing it differently for so long, right? But if you get it started right from the beginning, you don't calcify bad habits, right? So when the time comes to onboard someone into your organization, there is a semblance of structure, right? People wonder why their team turns over every 6, 12, 18 months. Well, because you didn't have any structure, right? Like, they came in, you trained them for 2 months, and then you just kind of left them to figure it out. No touch points, right? They hear from you like maybe once a quarter if they're lucky, but more than likely they're hearing from you once a year, right? When they're doing their annual review. So just encouraging you to start treating it like a business early on, especially if you're wearing all the hats. Like, that means you control everything. So you've got that power. Wilbur, great question. How do you start building a team without revenue until you complete a project? Profit sharing, looking for advice on building a team. Yeah, incredible approach. Like, here's how I would approach that. If you can find A players that you might want to get into business with for the long term, I might do some sort of a JV, right? A joint venture where they are going to get a little bit of equity. Maybe they manage the project for you in exchange for 10% of the net, something like that. And if that goes well, you might consider turning it into something more formal. But the idea with a JV is that JVs are terminal. And so if you make it through a project together and you make money and you want to continue on together, then you can start to formalize that. If not, right, you have the option of just saying, you know what, that was good. We did that one together, but let's not do any more together. So it's JVs are terminal, and sometimes that's good. And if there's an alignment and you feel compelled to work together going forward, then you can create some sort of a more formalized structure where that person can become an FTE, full-time employee. And then you can talk about compensation. By then you will have done the project. You will have likely banked, if you're doing add levels or additions or new constructions, you will have banked 6 figures. And that's plenty, right? Even if you had given them 10% of the net on the first project, to now say, hey, you want to come on full time, and you can pay them $1,000 a week or whatever that number is in your market. So that's how I would approach that. There's a way to get folks on board without having to necessarily pay them right out of the gate. Equity is a great way. Yeah, awesome, Wilbur. That's and frankly, I've done it that way, so I know that model works. So. Any other questions? Evan, if there's anything that I'm missing over on Facebook, I can't jump in and out of Zoom. So put them there, put them here in the chat. Otherwise, again, I want to take everybody back through this and just say, listen, systems will keep you sane. everything works if you work it. And so if you're wondering why you're all over the place and you're struggling to manage 2 rehabs and the thought of taking on a 3rd or 4th just is mind-boggling, it's likely an operations issue. Something in your EOS, in your entrepreneur operating system, is broken. And it's one of these 5 things, right? Like either you don't have clarity around the vision or what you're trying to achieve. You have the wrong people in the wrong seats. If you have any people at all, data, like if you have people, you're probably not holding them accountable to the right metrics. And if it's just you're not measuring anything, let's be honest, right? Like you're not measuring anything. You're making sure you just have enough money in the account to pay your tradesmen. That's probably the only thing you're measuring. And even that, you're probably bouncing checks. Issues, you're not dealing with any issues, right? Whatever they are, you're likely just deflecting or putting your head in the sand and just trying to get to the finish on the projects. And yet processes, like your process is your cell phone. Whatever you can text, call, however quickly you can get a thing done, you're shooting from the hip. And so that's the unfortunate reality of what these businesses look like at the beginning if you don't implement systems. So encouraging you to think about systems. Systems will keep you sane. If you want to learn more about systems, this was the 60,000 foot view. We dive deeper, happy to dive deeper with anyone who's interested. Again, just comment systems in the chat and Evan or someone from the team will reach out and connect with you and show you how we do it on the inside in our world. Again, I hope this was helpful. We tried this at a new time, right? So if for those of you that are checked in at 1 today, we're typically on at 6 EST. We're trying 1 EST to see how this works for most people coming off the heels of our event. And I want to say just about the event again, incredible having all these investors together in one place, and especially proud for those that were there or for those that are going to catch the replays. Once we get the videos out, you'll see that on the second day, our bus tour, we field visited 5 projects, all in varying stages of completion. The greatest thing about that is that none of those projects were mine, right? We visited 5 different student projects, projects that people other than me, people in our accelerator and in our mastermind programs are standing up on their own. And the coolest part is that every single one of them has been on a previous bus tour or attended a previous event. And we haven't had an event in 3 years. So somewhere between 3 and 5 years ago, these folks were a part of our world, came on our bus tour, attended one of our workshops. And here we are 3-ish years later, and they're showcasing their projects at one of our events. So that was incredible. Super proud about that, and excited to have some of you be the ones showcasing your projects 1, 2, and 3 years from now at our next bus tour. So again, great. Yeah, I see a lot of good feedback on the 1 o'clock. So I'm glad that you guys are enjoying these calls, and I'll keep bringing you these lives every Wednesday. So again, any questions, drop them in the comments, and the team will reach back out to you. And have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Keep crushing. And thanks again for tuning in. All right, guys, have a great day.